When it comes to firearm manufacturers in today's market, there are a few that are as well known as Springfield Armory. But much like James Bond, this one may be a tale of a double agent. I'm Dustin with We the People Holsters, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the tale of Springfield Armory, as well as talking about the firearms manufacturing company of today, what makes them different, and of course, giving you guys everything that you need to know about the history of Springfield Armory Incorporated.
Springfield Armory. Springfield. The Springfield.
Now, before we get into talking about things like freedom and guns and America's stuff, if you're as patriotic as George Washington was when he opened the armory in the first place, then you're gonna wanna check us out at wethepeopleholsters.com. See, contrary to popular belief, I know that it may come as a shock to you guys, but we have more than just holsters. We've got t-shirts made from dirt to shirt right here in the USA. We've got tactical belts that won't bend or break when you need them. And of course, we've got a KYDEX holster for pretty much everything that you can think of. Seriously, just go to the website. You guys can thank me later. All right, let's talk guns. When you look at the history of Springfield Armory, it's important to note that the Springfield Armory Incorporated of today is not the same Springfield Armory of yesterday. That's right, even though they have the same exact name, it's spelled the same way and everything, they're actually two completely different stories. Allow me to explain here. Let's start with the Springfield Armory, the one and only, right? The year is 1777, and America is much like a newborn baby in the fact that it's learning to take its first steps and definitely is still a little shaky at this point. The Revolutionary War is in full swing, and George Washington has just led his troops across the Delaware River to surprise the Redcoats on Christmas night a few short months earlier. As part of the continued war efforts, General Washington has sought out and approved a location for an armory to be built in the town of Springfield, Massachusetts. Now, I know that size isn't everything, right? But at the time, the town of Springfield is pretty small and definitely not a manufacturing hub. What it lacked in size, however, it made up for with the motion in the ocean. No, seriously. While the town may not have been an ideal choice in terms of sizing, what made it a solid choice for an armory was the fact of its geographical location. See, Springfield, Massachusetts is located right alongside of the Connecticut River, which is at the time a major waterway for transporting goods and services into and out of the new colonies. Additionally, there were 4 main roads that actually intersected in the town of Springfield as well. All of this added up to be a key location, and it would make it a major win for the armory as it would allow them to easily transport raw materials into the plant and finished firearms out of the plant. While the Springfield Armory would go on to make firearms, that wouldn't be until the 1790s that it would be its primary purpose. Until that point, the Springfield Armory would serve as a repository, right? A weapons cache, if you would, as well as house some smaller manufacturing shops that would do things like build carriages for cannons and other things like that. By 1795, though, this would change, as by this time construction would be completed at the armory, making it possible for them to actually manufacture muskets on site in Springfield, Connecticut. This would be one of the first national arms manufacturers located in the United States, by the way. Springfield would grow over the years, and by World War II, the armory would employ over 15,000 employees. Yes, 15,000. Not only would the Springfield Armory serve as a primary weapons manufacturer, it would also serve as a sort of centralized hub for those other private manufacturing companies that were working under government contract. The idea was that the armory would serve as a sort of general contractor per se, overseeing all of the current arms manufacturing contracts in the US of A. Now, after World War II, the armory would find itself slowing down a bit, as obviously with the war now being over, the demand for firearms and other wartime provisions would definitely have slowed down. This decline would continue until 1968, when Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara would ultimately decide that the armory was no longer necessary, as the federal government had instead opted to work with private industry to fulfill their contractual needs for arms and munitions. The armory would close, some of its outer properties sold off, and then the core buildings and land that the once booming Springfield Armory was located on would be turned over to the city and to the state to be preserved for generations to come. This site is actually now overseen by the one and only National Park Service and is preserved as a historical site for all generations to come and visit. This kind of seems like it's where the story ends, right? Well, sort of. Here's where we switch gears and go from a government-owned armory to a private business. A few years later, a man by the name of Elmer Balance submits and receives a patent and trademark for the name Springfield Armory Incorporated. Now, a quick Google search will show you that there's not a whole lot of information on Mr. Balance out there, but what I can say for sure is that at the time, he's running a company called the LH Gun Company out of the little town of Devine, Texas. See, our old pal Elmer here had the idea of creating a civilian version of the current M14 service rifles of the time, and had dubbed it iconically the M1A, which you've probably heard of if you've been around firearms for any amount of time. He would go on to do this for a few years before ultimately falling on some hardship and selling the company off to a family by the name of the Reese family from a small town in Illinois. Interesting note here is that the Reese family at the time was not even in the firearms industry full time. At that time, Mr. and Mrs. Reese were actually farmers who would spend their time buying and selling surplus firearm parts on the side. They hadn't dealt with any whole firearms. From this point forward, Springfield Armory would manufacture and sell firearms from their town in Geneseo, Illinois. What started as a firearms company out of Texas had grown to be one of the biggest firearm companies in the entire United States, and with good reason. The M1A rifle was, in all regards, the closest thing to an M14 that civilians could buy, and the rifle was extremely popular because of that. Over the years, Springfield would continue to produce firearms that were progressive in their own ways, from the XD series of pistols that had polymer frames to the turnkey out-of-the-box Saint line of AR platform rifles, and to more recently the Hellcats and of course the Hellion, which is this cool little like bullpup platform rifle that you can buy off your local shelf. All of this success though hasn't come without some scrutiny. See, back in 2017, Springfield Armory had fallen under criticism regarding their decision to support a bill that was proposed in Illinois, which was titled the Gun Dealer Licensing Act in Illinois. This act, if passed, would require that all Illinois firearms dealers be licensed at the federal levels as well as the state level. Regardless of this though, it seems that things have since smoothed over, as Springfield is still one of the most renowned names in the industry to date, period. What do you guys think about Springfield? Love it or hate it? Drop a comment down below. And also, if you have a company that you want to see us cover next, be sure to do that as well. If we pick your company, we'll actually send you a free t-shirt because of it. With that, my name's Dustin with We the People Holsters. We'll see you guys on the next one. Stay free, friends.